every day that Parliament sits to make sure that the climate and ecological emergency is at the forefront of our members of Parliament's minds.
Right.
In every decision that they make.
A very noble and admirable and honourable position to assume, I would suggest.
Especially so when it's raining.
Especially so, 100%, tenfold when it's raining,
Yeah.
I would argue. Right, so I'm pussyfooting around this because you was good enough to give me a cigarette, right? So I don't want to, I don't want to rip the absolute arse. But Sebastian, on a human being level,
Yeah.
talking to you as someone who's not taking the piss.
Yeah.
What have you seen that leads you to believe that man-made climate change is a real thing?
There is enough evidence that is accepted by scientists that I respect to indicate that that is the case.
Right. Follow-up question. Without mentioning David King's name, what scientists do you respect?
The International Panel on Climate Change.
Yeah, right. The
United
IPCC.
Nations body.
Yeah, right. But do we, on a personal, have we got any names of any scientists?
I don't know the names of the members of the IPCC.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And from the red alert thing, Code Red, beg your pardon. Have you read that report?
I have read that.
You have read that report. And do you know how much CO2 that in the IPCC suggests is in the air? Not parts per million as a fraction.
I
Percentage.
don't have a brain that retains that sort of information.
Fair enough. I appreciate your honesty.
What I accept is that the IPCC is the most authoritative voice that we've got. They say we are in code red. That's good enough for me.
Fair enough. And what's your position on the government?
I'd like to see it fall this afternoon.
Right. So why would you be so inclined to believe literature and publications that are paid for by government, the government and many other governments that are implementing fascistic types of regimes across the globe?
I think that the United Nations represents governments of such a broad hue
Right.
that if they can come up with a united voice, which they have done, then I think I am happy to accept their findings.
Do you not think that the United Nations and the European Union is just like another word for saying colonialism or imperialism? Possibly.
No, I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
Do you think it could be argued or no? It would be not unreasonable to argue?
I think it would be unreasonable to argue that every utterance of the United Nations and the European Union was, we are all
Sovereign.
We're all living the legacy of colonialism. Of course we are. Nobody can do anything other than live the legacy of colonialism.
Right.
But I don't think that necessarily means that we have to dismiss everything they say.
No, not necessarily. But I would argue that it would be of fundamental importance to actually understand. I'm not saying that you don't, because I haven't questioned you on it, but most people that I meet from Extinction Rebellion don't take the time to learn the information, the analytical data. They read the scaremongering words, the alarmist words, and then they want to. And fair play, because like I started, it's a very honourable and noble position to take.
I could not explain to you the theory of gravity. I could not explain to you the physics of gravity. But I do know when I get out of bed in the morning that my feet are probably going to remain firmly planted on the floor.
Right.
I'm prepared to work on that basis.
Right. Yeah, I understand your logic. But I think there's fundamentally, with that bit of logic that you're using, you have to have a certain degree of faith and trust.
I have faith in the principles of gravity. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because nothing has. I have seen no evidence to disprove the principles of gravity.
No.
And so I function on a day-to-day basis.
What about the integrity of the United Nations? Do you not think that's ever in question?
Of course, my integrity is in question.
Right, of course,
Everybody's in
of course.
So all we can do is the best that we can do on the information that we have and our ability to process it.
Yeah, I think like if you want to see the place fall this afternoon,
No, I don't want the place to fall. I'd like to see the government.
Yeah. Well, I meant like this place, but I mean, I don't know. Like I'm saying, I respect you for doing what you do. Do you know what I mean?
We all do what we can do.
Yeah, I think we should all do more reading though, Seb, man.
I would agree, everybody should do more reading.
100%.
Absolutely agree on that.
So, thank you very much for your time today. You have a nice day, Seb. Cheers, mate.